Happy Monday, everybody. We have a special guest in the house today. It's me and Maggie, of course.
Mhm.
And we have Becca. Do you want to do a little intro? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I always find intros hard, I'm not gonna lie. But hi, my name's Rebecca. But yeah, most people call me Becca or Rebecca. 24, live in London. I know Ellie from secondary school. Yeah, she was basically one of the first friends I made because we didn't really have a choice. Because we were like in all of the same classes together, and because we
Mhm.
came like our names are next to each other in the register, so we were like always partners or on the same table. I think we low-key had like that little joke that we actually didn't like each other, because we were just tired of being with each other. But obviously, we became good friends, and yeah, the
Mhm.
rest is history.
Isn't it
Lovely.
mad how, like, just based on register, it means that you're paired up with someone and then it means you're friends? Like,
No,
how,
literally,
like a decade on, like, that's actually crazy.
This
like
is
if
literally, yeah, what we
yeah.
spoke about last week because we were saying how when you grow up, you literally select your friends based on such niche parts of them, whereas when you're younger, it just happens.
Definitely. Like it's just based on proximity. Like if my surname began with like C or something, like I wouldn't like me and Ellie probably wouldn't be friends. Like that's just crazy to think about it.
No, it's
So
so
much.
weird.
Okay, so let's kind of start. Obviously, this podcast is all about navigating our 20s, and it's we're all at the ghetto of the start of the career. Like, we're all trying to figure it out. So what did you do at the start of your career? What kind of job did you have, and why did you choose to go into that?
Yeah, so sorry. So I graduated in 2020. When I graduated, I had like no idea what I wanted to do. I studied geography. Shout out to all the geographers. Come on.
Woo!
They're the best
Literally all
people.
of us.
Yeah, just quick side note, definitely the best subject ever. No one can tell me otherwise. But
Mhm.
yeah, I studied geography, finished it and had no idea what I wanted to do. Also finished like all of us, I think, during lockdown. So it was just a really, really weird time. I didn't have a grad job lined up, didn't have anything lined up, to be fair. Um, so yeah, I needed experience and I needed money. Like it was as simple as that. So I was kind of just looking generally, but I've always because I've like human geography, social side is my thing. So I knew that I wanted to kind of work either in the not-for-profit sector or public sector because I just feel like that's where my values align, and I wanted to work in a place where it's kind of impactful work. So I was just kind of looking generally for jobs. I didn't really mind. And like I said, because I didn't have any like I hadn't had a proper job prior. So I was just like, what can I find? Um, and yeah, ended up landing in a social mobility charity. So started in November 2020. So like about 4 months after graduating, which I was kind of like lucky to be in a position that I could get a job despite not having like a grad scheme lined up.
Mhm.
Mm.
And yeah, so in that, I initially, when I started, it was a fixed term contract. So it was only meant to be about 9 to 12 months. Um, and I was like, this is actually perfect for me because I just wanted like a year post graduating where I could just try and like build skills, build my experience. I didn't feel like I needed like the like quote unquote perfect job or the thing that I was going to be in for the next 5 years. I just needed something on my CV other than like the random like work experiences I had at uni. So yeah, I did that. And then about 3 months in, they offered me like a permanent role. And at first I was umming and ahhing because like, let's be real, like we all know charity sector doesn't pay well. So I only
Mhm.
wanted to be there for the year because I was like, I can firm like a relatively lower salary and just like get lots of experience. But I still took the permanent role because it would have been dumb not to, because life is unpredictable. So I took the role, ended up staying for about 2 years, but we'll get more into like how that went. But yeah, in terms of what I did, honestly, a lot of things. Like the charity is quite small in terms of like the employees. So it's about 70 on average, I'd say, throughout my time there at least. So everyone is doing a lot, like really, really intense. I was on their graduate scheme. When they like offered me a permanent role, they put me on their graduate scheme. So part of that includes like 6 months rotation. So I got to do like
Oh,
different areas of charity management, which is quite cool. So things like stakeholder partnership management, comms and marketing, like tech digital stuff. Like so really good experience. And I was doing like loads of other things, which I'm not going to bore you with now because honestly the list is so long. But yeah, it was quite intense.
that actually sounds so cool. Girl, how did I not know that you did
The
rotations?
thing is,
No,
it sounds cool on like when I say it, but yeah, the reality is different.
no, it's so true. You speak to so many people and you're like, oh my God, you do that as a job, that's lit, blah, blah, blah. But really and truly, sometimes it's not what it's made out to be. It looks better on paper.
Okay.
But after that, you're now in a new role, right?
Yeah.
So like how did you decide to switch into a different sector, quote unquote, or like role? And yeah, how did you even know what you wanted to go into after that?
Yeah, so like I didn't. I still don't really know. Like I think like I know myself a lot and I know that like I'm just gonna keep figuring things out. I'm not the type of person like my career isn't gonna be my life, like it's not gonna be my passion. So I don't mind spending these next like 5, 7 years or whatever, just moving around until I find what works for me. And I think that's just kind of my motto. Like if I want to be at a role for 2 years and then move to something else, I will because like it's just life's too short and I don't believe in like being in a place for 10 years plus and not being happy. So my old job, I guess, I went through a lot there, and obviously, as you know, and that's kind of why I'm here. I ended up taking a break, because well, it's a really long story, but essentially, I just wasn't really happy. I knew I didn't want to stay there long term because, like I said, like I know I'm quite cool. I know my worth. So obviously I need, a
Love
job
that.
with a higher salary. So like kind of long term, I knew I couldn't be there, but I definitely knew that there was just a lot that I could gain. So I wanted to like essentially milk the charity in terms of like the experience and opportunities
Yeah.
I could get. But I definitely got to a point where it started to take a toll on like my well-being. It was just really a lot of work that I just wasn't being compensated for. Also, areas of the like I can't say too much, but there were some
Yeah.
dodgy things that took place and that affected me. That made me definitely want to leave, and it just got to a point where I just wasn't happy. And like even when I wasn't working, I was still thinking about work, like just constantly anxious. And I was like, this just isn't the way life is meant to be. So I started applying for jobs probably so I left my old job. It's actually, and I was going to say, this is really perfect timing for the podcast because yesterday marks 1 year since I left my old job.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
yeah.
Oh,
So
Happy ditching that shit
thank
anniversary.
you, thank you. I know I should have had like a little cake or a little something to celebrate.
Yeah, girl, you should have.
But yeah, so in terms of like timelines, like I said, started in November 2020, and I would say probably in like spring of 2022 is when I started actually making applications for new jobs. But as you're probably all aware, the job market is tough. So I was getting quite a few rejections, which is a bit tough. And I remember got to a point where I actually like had a job. I was at the second interview stage and I genuinely just did not have the time to like prepare for the interview because they wanted me to like analyze a case study, do a presentation, all of this stuff. But I was so drained from my current job, like I just didn't have the energy or time to actually prepare. And I ended up just not going to the interview. Like I didn't even email them, I didn't cancel it, I just literally didn't go. And that's when I knew, like, okay, like this isn't working because I'm not happy at my current job, but because my current job is draining me so much, I can't commit and like give my energy and effort to actually making good applications for other jobs. So I was like, something needs to change. And essentially, I spoke to my best friend. We caught up on the phone like 1 week in August. She was telling me how's work, literally was crying on the phone for 2 hours. And like that's when I realized like, oh, I'm actually not happy. Like, when you real like it was a norm. Like I was used to it. But that phone call I feel like was like a watershed moment. Like it made me realize like I need to do something different. And she like lightly mentioned, suggested like taking a career break. And I swear I heard those words and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. Like literally, I was like, I'm gonna do it. And she was like, oh, obviously, weigh up the pros and cons, take your time, don't rush into it. I was like, no, sorry, babes, I'm actually doing it. I think we called on Sunday and I handed in my resignation letter that Friday. Like I did it within 5 days. But
Wow.
I just knew that like that's what I needed to do because I think I felt like my desire to leave my job was the only thing that was motivating me and I couldn't think about what I actually wanted to do. So I was like, do you know what, there's just no point in like trying to force myself to do both things. So I just took the break to like firstly think about my career journey and my next steps, but also to look after myself because I was like, I just need to rest and like prioritize myself. So yeah, I did that and yeah.
This is honestly, hearing it is like, wow, you're actually so brave because I think a lot of people, and it sounded like you were overworked and underpaid. And I think a lot of people, especially their first jobs out of uni, that is the situation. But they're just so scared of the financial instability and just scared to take a career break at such an early stage. Like me and Ellie were even talking about this the other day. How did your parents and your other friends react to you deciding to take a career break? Like, were you supported? Did you have to explain yourself and explain your decision?
Yeah, so I can't lie, I thought I was gonna have to explain. Like I prepared my responses, like justifications, rebuttal arguments, everything. But honestly, generally, there was so much support. Like, and I'm really, really grateful. Like, no one like tried to discourage me from doing it. And if anything, like the concerns that I had were the same concerns they had. And it was really just the finance part. Like, and I think because I had been going on for time that I wanted to leave my job, that I wasn't happy. So it didn't like it wasn't surprising. Um, but like I knew that okay, this is going to take a toll on my savings, but for me, like it was worth it. And I think when I said it like that, like everyone kind of knew that like, this is the thing to do. So yeah, I was grateful that like I was really supported. I didn't have to fight anyone to like prove why I needed to do this.
No, I love that. I think there's so much pressure on like staying in a role and having a career and having money behind you that actually it doesn't give you time to actually think about what you want to do with your life. So many people fall into a career and then they're like, well, that's it for the rest of my life then, because that's the way life goes. It's actually shit. I love listening to you. It's really inspiring. But on that note, what did you do in your career break? Because obviously, like you have to think about your finances, just being an adult and having responsibilities. But at the same time, like you worked so hard, you deserve to treat yourself and enjoy. And like, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I think so my break was from basically the first, let's just say beginning of November to beginning of April. So it was a
Yeah.
5 month break. I remember I told myself like the first 2 weeks, like nothing, like no thoughts, nothing, like not like no plans, don't even think long term. I just wanted to spend the first 2 weeks honestly just like relaxing, just chilling. Because I think I'm a huge planner and I'm also a very anxious person. So I'm constantly thinking about like what to do with my time, how to make the best of my time. And I just wanted 2 weeks where I wasn't even thinking about like the social stuff or anything like that. I just wanted to just go with the flow. Um so that's kind of how I started, which was really nice. And also because it was this time last year, it was also like Halloween weekend as well. So like I had a lot of fun and then like I had like 2 weeks to just like chill and see my friends and do random things. And then I was like, okay, let me start thinking about like long term. And for me, I didn't have like an end date in mind either. I obviously didn't want my savings to finish. I was like, this is not going to be like a year-long break, but it's not like I was thinking, okay, I need to be in a job by, this month. I was just like, I'm going to go with the flow and see and just kind of evaluate and think about what's best. So yeah, at first, I like signed up to this like boot camp, digital boot camp course. So I think it's run by like DFE, the Department of Education, and they like run a lot of kind of like skill boot camp courses to just help like educate the nation. Because obviously there's like a huge demand now for like people having more like tech-based and analytical kind of skills. So I did
Mm.
this like data boot camp course, which was about 12 weeks, but it spanned over Christmas. So probably was like ended up being about 4 months in total. And it was just based on like data and like Excel and just being better at that. Because in my old job, I handled a lot of data, but I don't know what happened, but kind of post like secondary school, I just had a huge fear of maths. Like anytime I saw numbers, I was like, I can't do this. And even though I was dealing with a lot of data in my old job, I didn't always feel confident in what I was doing. So I was like, let me just do this course just to help like brush up and sharpen and tidy skills, but also instill confidence in myself and like just explain things that I was doing in my old job because like I learned on the job. But you know, when like you learn how to do it for a particular reason, but you don't really understand it fully. So I was like, let me actually tackle Excel and try and understand this thing. And then like outside of the like skill stuff, like I said, one of the main reasons I wanted to take the break was also to look after myself and invest in myself, and do things that I've wanted to do for a while. So I started volunteering at a food bank, which I've always wanted to do because like the older I get, the more I'm kind of just conscious and aware and desire to like give back to like community spaces. So finally had time to do that, which is really, really nice. And I still do that today, but just not as often as before. So I would volunteer. I got back into reading, which I really, really like I'm happy about because yeah, as a child, I was one of those children that like lived in the library. But then when I got like my first iPod or first like BlackBerry, like the books went down and it was a wrap.
Mm,
And like I've been trying, like in uni, I tried to read, but like I'm sure you guys can relate, like with all of the reading that you do in your course, like, I didn't want to spend my spare time picking up books as well. Like I needed a break from work. So it was hard to read in uni, like beyond a couple books a year. But yeah, I like in this time, like actually like got back into reading as a habit. I found a really cool book club. So like they have like loads of nice events and like got to know people through that as well, which is really nice. And other just bits like here and there, like I tried to pick up crocheting because I want to be one of those girls. Hasn't worked, but like literally like the yarn and everything is literally right next to me. I haven't picked it up since February, but the
Same.
intention is still there. And maybe one day I'll go back.
I have a crochet kit from COVID sitting in my bedroom.
But I have a guitar from COVID that like is collecting dust. And I believe one day I'll pick it up, but
One day,
anyways,
one
that's always
day.
there. But yeah, it was just nice because it was like whatever I wanted to try out, I could. Like it'd be a random Tuesday at like 11 a.m. and I went to a beginner's crochet class because I could, or like a
Oh, that
random
sounds
fitness
lovely.
class, going to different cafes, like reading, writing, walking more, just like whatever it is that I wanted to do, but like just being really like kind and easy on myself and not feeling, I think it was just nice because I didn't feel so pressured to like do so much in my day, when you have your 9 to 5. Sorry, when you have your 9 to 5, it's like, okay, I've got the weekend, but then I've got live admin, but then I'm seeing this person on Saturday and then this motive on Sunday. And then, I've got to make sure I get my 8 hours. And I was just constantly anxious about time and how I'm spending it. So the break was just really good because it meant that like I would have days where I just wouldn't do anything. But I didn't feel bad about that because I didn't need to feel bad. And then there were days where like I could just decide, I randomly want to go to this museum or this exhibition and I can. So yeah, it was a good time.
oh, sorry, Fox is literally taken over my desk. But I was going to say, I fully relate to the fear of maths. Like, oh my God, it's so scary to me. So I think it's so cool that you did a data course, especially because every job you go into, regardless, you will have to use data. It could be nothing financial or mathematical at all. You need to use it. So I think it's really cool that you actually, in your career break, took time to invest in your skills, but also it sounded like it was a big mental health take on of like actually looking after yourself and prioritizing that, because it's so true when you're working 9 to 5. What time do, if you're, especially if you're commuting, what time do you have to do the things that you want to do and volunteer and stuff? Like it takes up a lot of your energy. So it's nice that you actually got to do that and actually put your energy into things you wanted to. How do you now perceive work after having taken your career break and seeing, oh, these are the things I love to do? Are you able to incorporate that into your current job? And do you view work as differently to how you viewed it before?
Yeah, I definitely try. Like, obviously, I don't have as much time, so I can't do as much as before. Like, I think when I wasn't like working, so like I set this goal, for example, to read like 15 books this year, because before I was reading like only a couple, and like
Mm.
within the first 3 months of the year, like I achieved it because I just had so much free time. And then when I started like working again, I was like, okay, then I started reading like, maybe one or two books a month as opposed to like four or five. So obviously like, yeah, there's less time, so I can't do as much. But what it's because I like built up like new hobbies, or, continued doing the hobbies that like I've, actually enjoyed. I'm definitely still trying to make sure that they're a part of my life, and I'm not abandoning those hobbies, and or only waiting to like, the weekend or holiday to do things. So like I said, like I still try and volunteer on Wednesdays in the evening. I don't go every week because like sometimes I'm tired, but like it's something that I know I can like do like at least like twice a month, and other things like that. But in terms of like perception on work, it's definitely, I think the break was helpful because it just was a reminder, or it might have not even been a reminder. I don't think I actually fully knew, but the break really like revealed to me like the importance of remembering that I am so much more than like what goes on within those like hours. Because like I said, I had so much, I was always anxious about work, and had a lot of insecurities about my performance and if I was doing well or not, and just constantly like stressed. And having that break and now going back to work has been really great, because it's just now I just, even if something goes wrong in work, or if I'm really tired, or if I'm really stressed, or whatever's going on, like I try to remind myself that like, okay, this is happening now, but like I'm more than this. Like I'm not defined solely by the email that I accidentally like forgot to proofread, or
Yeah.
whatever mistake that I've made at work. And I will close my laptop, I'll do whatever I want to do in the evening, that brings me joy, and I'll come back to work the next day. It is what it is, but I'm more than that. And I think it's definitely helped to like alleviate some of those anxieties by like still having the hobbies and interests that I have throughout the week, because it lets me see myself more holistically and think about the things outside of work that like bring me joy, and I can like invest in those passions. So yeah.
I love that. Do you know what? I feel like everything you say is so relatable. It's so easy to look at your job and be like, this defines me. If I'm not like amazing in my job, then I'm not an amazing person. I do it all the time. I'm sitting here thinking, so maybe I need a career break. Like, don't tempt me. But with that, obviously it was only, I say only, but like it was only 5 months. So it's not like you took out like years of your life. But when you went for your interviews for your new job now, did you have to say, oh, so I took 5 months out? Like, was that a topic of discussion? Do you feel like that actually, I don't know, to me, you talking about it makes me excited. It makes me feel like you're just like a really cool person who knows what to prioritize in life. Like, I'd almost give you the job for it. But how was it perceived in interviews and stuff like that? Was it even brought up?
Yes, I can't lie, I was scared as well. And like when I started to apply for new jobs, I was like, okay, cool. you know, I can talk about what I've done on my CV, but I also thought that like it was something that was going to be brought up. I applied before I got sure. I think I applied for about four jobs. I didn't get past the CV stage, so no one had to ask me that. So this job that I have is the only job that I had. That I done an interview for, and they didn't ask, thankfully, but I had
Oh,
like prepared an answer anyways. And I think it's okay. It's just thinking about like there are two parts to it. The first thing was the thing that I was most scared about, which is explaining why I left my old job. Because yeah, they're gonna ask you like, why did you leave? And I left because I didn't like it. Like I just wanted to do different things. So I was like, okay, how do I say this professionally? But I did kind of construct an answer in preparation. And I think it's fine. Like at the end of the day, everyone leaves a job to, go somewhere else because you want to pursue a different part of your career journey. So for me, it was just for that part, I just knew that like I just had to say that, I had gained all of this at my old job, but I want to do X, Y, and Z. And I felt like where I was at my old job wouldn't allow that. But you guys, this opportunity here will allow me to progress in this sense, connecting the dots.
yeah.
And then in terms of like actually explaining what you did in the break. Again, that's why I wanted to make sure that like I wasn't just like enjoying and chilling because I feared that they would ask me like, 5 months have passed, like what have you done? So obviously I would be able to talk about like the bootcamp course and talk about the data skills and again link it. I think the key with interviews is just always making that link to like the role that you're applying. So like, okay, I left and I took a break, but I did XYZ, and it's going to help me if I was offered like given this opportunity to work for your organization. So luckily I didn't have to do all of that, but I did prepare an answer. So I didn't once I did prepare, I didn't feel too nervous about like talking about it.
I'm so impressed because it just seems like it was such a thought out process, even though at the time it sounded like you were really in the eye of the storm and it's like I just have to quit, like I just can't do it. Um, but you still were really sensible about it in taking the course and doing all of these other things and then having to think about, okay, but what am I going to say in an interview if they ask me? So yeah, I'm like really impressed. Usually career breaks are more associated with older people, like 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds who are like, right, I've reached the brink of my capacity. And it's less heard of. It's it's less heard of, is that correct? It's more unheard of for people our age, even though I do know some people who have also done that. Would you recommend if someone was in your position or someone who's listening to this now and they just feel overwhelmed doing the most, would you recommend people to take a career break?
If you can, 100%. I think, yeah, like you said, one of the reasons I was scared is because, you don't hear a lot of stories about people taking career breaks. And I thought that it would like put me at a disadvantage in the long term if I did. But I think it actually really, really did help me. And it was actually funny because even when I actually had this interview for this job, um, I think I at the end, like this was after the interview had finished, I just asked them like, oh, in terms of next steps and how long will it take to hear back? And they asked me like, oh, what's your current notice period for your current job? And I was like, oh, I'm on a break. And they didn't even like know, like they just didn't care, even though it was on my CV. So obviously it depends on like where you apply. I can't speak for everywhere, but I think a lot of young people probably will feel that like it will kind of put them back like in their career journey because they're in the earlier stages. But I personally think like it's a really good time because in 5, 10 years time, 15, whatever, I don't know what position I'll be in. I don't know if I'll have dependents. I don't know if I'll have like big serious adult bills to be paying beyond just like my phone bill and stuff, where like I can't afford to like spend so much money. Like I was fortunate. I knew that it was gonna be tough financially, but I had the savings to do so. Um, and I'm still struggling today because it ate a lot into my savings. But I look back and I don't regret it because I can't imagine like leaving my old job and jumping into a new job without having taken that break to like just look after myself, because I think a lot of the things that I experienced in my old job would have carried over. So I needed that time. And I obviously can't like quantify the benefits that I got from taking the break, but I think those kind of wider psychological, social, mental benefits are so important. And I like have no regrets at all. So yeah, if there is anyone that's like in a similar position, like I said, it's obviously down to like your own financial position. I live at home, so like paying rent and stuff wasn't a thing that I had to consider, but things like that obviously you've got to like balance out. So like weigh up the pros and cons. But I'm a huge believer in resting, and I will always advocate for taking a break. Like it doesn't even have to be like a long career break, but like things like 1 week of annual leave or weekend, it's not always going to do it. And a lot of us are burnt out more than we know. So I think like where you can like just take the time to invest in yourself and look after yourself really. But the one thing I will say is, and it's something that even now I still have to remind myself, is that like taking a career break isn't going to solve all your problems. Um, like part of the reason why I took it, like I said, was because I wanted to learn more about the next steps that I want to take in my career journey and really think about like what do I want to do. So like I realized, okay, my skill sets align with like project management. So I want to go into that. So my current job is like kind of to do with like project management stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not like entirely happy in my current job. It's not the best thing. It's not the worst, but it's definitely got its problems. And I remember like earlier, so I started this job in April. And like a couple months in, I was really thinking like, what the hell did I like sign up to? Like, and I started beating myself up because I was thinking, like, girl, you took this break. You were meant to like figure it all out, learn about yourself. You know, you've lost this much money. All of this has happened. Now you're in a new job and you're still not happy. And yeah, a lot of the time, like I was like kind of beating myself up about that. But I had to remind myself, like, it's I was never gonna get the answers. Like I wasn't gonna solve things. I wasn't gonna find the perfect job, and that's okay. Like the career break wasn't meant to do that. What it's done is, like I said, like it's much bigger than that. Like I can't quantify, I can't even put in to like exact clear words, but it's helped me grow a lot and develop a lot. And yeah, right now this job might not be the perfect fit for me, but that's okay because we're going to keep going. We're going to keep figuring things out and keep moving. And the career break was just part of that journey. But it was needed. Like I said, if I didn't take that rest, I just don't think um I don't think I would be like as happy as I am now or like experience as much as I like have like all of the things that I currently do in my social life, all of the like the goals that I've set this year, I've been able to set and commit to because I had that break and that time to work on like not work on myself. It sounds so cliche, but you know what I mean? Like
No.
just invest a bit more into myself. So I would say it's amazing, but just like just make sure you think about like what you really want to gain from it, and also don't put pressure on yourself for this break to be the thing that like solves your life. Like we're gonna be working unfortunately for a really long time, so it's like it's okay for you to not get things right and things to not be always linear. And I think I always have to remind myself like it's a journey. Like it's not always going to be like, things aren't always going to advance and get better after each role, but there will always be something that I gain. And I think there are positives to this role that I'm grateful for. And there are things that, I experienced in my old job that I don't now. So holding on to that basically.
I love that. I find your honesty so refreshing. Like you're not glamorizing a career break, but you're saying, I did this, it helped me in this way. And there's no need to have the perfect job. There is such this narrative. It's so strong that you come out of uni or whatever education path you've taken and you end up in this role and it's going to be the perfect role and you're going to climb up the career ladder and be rich. Like it just doesn't exist. No role is perfect. I've never met anyone who says, I love my job so much. It's the best thing ever. I want to work 7 days a week. It's not realistic, basically. Um, but yeah, I love that. So refreshing. In terms of like, I know when you first started, you said, yeah, you're super just, I don't know how to describe it, but humble. Like you have these strong core values. Do you think now, having seen, because you've obviously done the NGO and now you're in public sector, would you ever now, given all of the experience you have, look at private sector, or are you still like
Never. No, like I knew from I think in 20 before uni I did like an internship at BlackRock, and I
oh
did an internship,
wow.
but this wasn't I
Damn,
wasn't
girl.
the girl please. But this was in the marketing side. So I wasn't even in the financial, like the real asset management part. And even then I was like, mm-mm. I think I there are just things that I value, and the corporate well, obviously, I don't want to like generalize, but I guess what we think of like typical like corporate sector doesn't really align with that. I think the closest I could do maybe like something a bit like consultancy, but again, it would have to be like not the kind of like big four like Deloitte, EY, all of that stuff. Something where it's just not so hectic. Like I really do value like a good work-life balance, and where I currently work. They're really huge on flexibility and flexible working hours, which I'm really grateful for. And like if I'm closing my laptop, if I say I have to close my laptop at 4:30, I'm gonna close my laptop at 4:30. Like one of my best friends, she works at like corporate law. And it is like there are times where genuinely she'll message me at like 1 a.m. and be like, hey, I'm leaving the office. I'm in my bed. Like
But
I'm scrolling on TikTok and you're in your Uber home. there are things and
Jeez.
it works for different people. I know myself, it's never going to work for me. Um, and on top of that, I also, at least right now, where I am in my career, I know that for me to enjoy the work I'm doing, I need to know that it's tied to a bigger mission. And every organization has its faults. Like, don't get me wrong, nowhere is perfect. Charity sector isn't perfect, but I want to work somewhere where, like, the work that they're doing, like, it's like producing like impactful, tangible benefits on communities that need it. So before I was at a social mobility charity. Now in public sector, I'm working in like housing. So like how to make improve the kind of housing crisis in London and increase affordable housing. So I do think at least for the next, for the foreseeable future, I think I will still continue to look for organizations that like the work they do aligns with the social issues that I care about, even if I'm not like their frontline fighting, tackling the issue. Like right now, the work I do is like more behind the scenes, but at least I know that like indirectly it's contributing to things that I care about. So yeah, I just honestly, if you see me in like a law firm, banking firm, whatever it is, just know something's gone wrong. Like this ain't me.
It's so funny to hear you say that because I work at an NGO and I'm like, my next move, I'm thinking, is it going to be at a corporate? Is it going to be in government? But I want to experience something different. I want more benefits as well because
Yeah.
NGOs cannot give benefits. Like they're not for profit. They can't be giving you gym access, things like that.
Excuse me, you get fruit 5 days a week.
Yeah, I do.
Like,
My office does have fruit.
Yeah, we didn't have that. We had a biscuit in my old charity, and that was the most that they could give us.
Yeah, I think to be fair, we share an office space with a corporate company, so it's actually their fruit, but they just let us have it. But yeah, that's kind of like I'm looking at that into next steps. You're now working for government, for public sector. How does NGO differ to working for public sector?
So much. Like honestly, I feel like I'm still adjusting now, and I've been here coming up to 7 months now. I think next week marks 7 months, and I'm still adjusting. The so I went before NGO, but like I said, it was kind of small, so it meant that it was really easy to know everyone. Like even though we had regional offices, like I would know. Like honestly, I could if I saw someone on like Teams, whatever, knew their name, knew their role, knew roughly what they do, like not a problem. And I was able to build a lot of connections, build a lot of friendships. Where I currently work, and obviously this doesn't represent like the whole of the public sector, but where I currently work, in terms of the scale, it's crazy the difference. So in like the housing directorate that I work in, there are probably, I think, close to 280 people in that directorate alone. And there are
Wow.
like six other directorates. So we're talking about the thousands, right, overall. But even like within my wider team of about like 30 to 40 people, I think like five people, I know their name and roles. Like it's so in terms of just the scale and how many people um that like employees there are, that's a huge difference. But I do like that because I think it depends on the type of person you are, pros and cons. But in my old job, I liked the fact that because there weren't that many of us, it meant that everyone was doing a lot. So it was easy to like work on things and make your like mark on a project, if that makes sense. But it also meant there was just way too much on every single person. Like it was actually insane. Whereas here it's like there are loads of people working on projects and programs. So there's a lot more support. So that's one difference. I would also say there's just a lot of other things that I've got to be aware of that like just don't exist. Like there's like this thing like Freedom of Information Act. So it's like FOI request, and like any member of the public can like randomly request for like any information in like a public sector body. And obviously we don't have to like comply and give that, but that request can be made and we do have to respond to the request. So it means like someone can legit like just ask for like the emails between me and like another colleague about a particular topic, and we have to respond to that request. So you're like just constantly like being wary of like the things that we publish and just like being aware like of the implications. And I know that exists like everywhere, but I think there's just like a lot of emphasis here on like kind of privacy and like data regulations and all of that stuff, like just general governance, in a way that I didn't have to think about before. And then just lastly, like you talked about, like just funding and money, like charity, like yeah, it's not for profit, like they rely on funding from like government and other organizations and donations. Like our charity, the charity that I used to work at, we would constantly have like fundraising campaigns and things like that. So it just meant that the funding wasn't really there to support employees in like other areas. Whereas now there's so much funding where I currently work at for like continuous professional development and things like that. So that like if I want to, you know, take this course or whatever it is, like it's that the money is there. Whereas before, like the money was there, but like you really had to fight, for that case because it's just availability of funds and yeah, the benefits here are obviously a lot greater, like pensions and things like that. And everything's just the office is nicer. Like working in the charity again that I worked at was a small like co-working space. So they just didn't have as many nice facilities. So yeah, those are some of the differences.
I think an office actually makes such a big difference on my productivity, my mood, everything.
Definitely.
It
If there's
really does.
no natural lighting, like it's a wrap. I'm sorry. I hate it. I can't do that.
Yeah, mate, there's one of our offices that we have, there's a dark corner that like no one goes to because it's so gloomy. And in the winter, about at 3 p.m., you're ready to go home
Yeah.
if it was at home time. But I mean, that was lovely. I feel like we can jump into our grown-up section and round off, unless you have any more questions, Maggie, or are we
No, I
ready?
think we can jump into the grown-up section.
Fab. So obviously our podcast is called Grown Ups and it's all about, yeah, growing up, becoming adults and navigating this shit show that is life. So my question to you is like describe being a grown up in one word or one sentence. What is that?
So yeah, I was trying to think of my one word. I'll go with a simple one. I'll just say ever changing.
Oh,
Yeah, like it I don't know how to articulate how like inconsistent adulting is. Um, and it's in a way that can be like really difficult, but on the flip side, it can also be really reassuring. And I think that's something the older I get, the more I'm trying to remind myself of that. Like there may be times where like I'm just not happy, I'm super stressed, or when you know that like a week is coming up and there's a deadline, and you know that every day you're gonna have to wake up early and whatever it is, but just knowing that like, you will overcome that and in a week's time and whatever however long's time you like things will be better, things will change. So just holding on to that and knowing that like how I am currently, like I won't be like this in a year's time. Like I think back to a year ago when I left my old job and how much has changed in this year. I think back to me when I graduated uni, like how much I've changed. I think back to me prior to uni, like that's just what adulting is. It's ever changing. And change and like brings a lot of uncertainty and anxiety. But knowing that like there is so much that will happen that I can't even like fathom right now. Like I can't imagine what I'll be like at 25. I can't imagine what I'll be like in my late 20s. And it's nice to know that like there are loads of things that, I'm not currently happy with right now, even if that's in my career or like my personal life and things that I wish were different. But if I look back and think about who I was like 2 years ago, I would be shocked about like where I am now. So like holding on to the fact that like things will just keep changing. Some changes, beyond our control, but some is within our control. And like it's okay. Like it will keep changing until we figure it out. And there's no pressure to have everything like done and ready. Um, that's what like adulting will change and we move with that.
Such a good point. And I think being an adult is all about being able to adapt to those changing circumstances. If you can adapt to it, then you can carry on and keep thriving. At what age do you feel like you actually felt like an adult? Like, okay, no, I can make decisions. I feel like I know what's best for me, etc.
I'd say February this year.
Date.
Like, um, I think, yeah, like when I look back to like graduating and that first year doesn't count because lockdown, like that
Oh,
lockdown year, sorry, I don't include that in the records. Even with like having a job and things like that, I I think I was still in such a uni mindset, and I was still just adjusting and transitioning. And now like it's been 3 years since I've graduated. I think taking the break has helped me mature a lot, in terms of just understanding like what it is that I want to do as a person, but also like I think I've pushed myself a lot out of my comfort zone to do things that normally I would be too scared to do. You know, I'd rely on other people to do. Having so much free time means that like your friends aren't available between 9 to 5 on most days. So I am just gonna go to random places and do random things. You know, I am gonna like join this random bowling club and make friends there and things like that. And I think I felt a lot of independence this year. The reason why I say specifically February is because obviously I took my break from November, but this year usually I like try not to do too much with like New Year resolutions because I never stick to them. But I was like, "Do you know what? Let me just jot down all of the things that I want to do, and not put pressure on myself, but just make a list of like all of these goals." And I feel like January was honestly one of the best months I've had this year. And usually January is hellish because it's a terrible time of year. But I had a really good January because I committed so much to myself and doing things, and it like really set up the year. And even now that I'm working, and you know I'm dealing with all of the like career struggles and problems, and money's tight, and you know we're back in winter and whatnot. I think I'm still reminding myself that like you know in the beginning of the year I set myself these goals and I was committing to my growth and I can do that. And you know even though like I might be going through like a rough period, like it's not long term. The struggles that I went through in the past I was able to overcome, so whatever struggles I have now, like they too will pass. So yeah, I felt like kind of early in the year I really was like committing to like just looking after myself and growing and all that good stuff. So I feel like this year like marks like you know my ability to be an adult, to make decisions, to be independent, but also to challenge myself and just know that like you know the traits that I'm not too happy with, the things that I want to change, like I can change. And it's not going to happen overnight, but like I am capable of doing that change. So yeah.
beautiful. Girl, maybe have you ever thought about being like a motivational speaker or
Girl,
something?
please. Please.
No, honestly, what a humbling, we're recording this on a Sunday, guys, but what a humbling, refreshing Sunday. Beautiful. Yeah, on that note, happy Monday, everyone. Have a great week. Any more from anyone else?
No, just thank you, Becca, for coming on the pod. I think it's so mad. Like your voice sounds very calm, and you just seem so calm and level-headed. And I feel like obviously I didn't know you before this, but I feel like it's very obvious that you take care of yourself, and you're just yeah. It's just been really lovely to speak to you. I think it would be really nice for people to get this insight because a lot of people don't know people that have gone through career breaks. So yeah, thank you for giving up your time and sharing a bit of your story with us.
Oh, no worries, and thank you for inviting me, like honestly, and also big up you guys for actually like committing to this podcasting because I can imagine it's challenging, but you've been doing it since the beginning of the year, and it's really great. So like, it's an honor to be here, and yeah, can't wait to listen to the rest of the episode you have.
Thank you. Guys, if you have anything you want to hear from us, like if there's any insights like this that you want to know, or any thoughts, feedback, send them into grownupspodcast@gmail.com or
DM us at Grown Ups the Podcast. Bye.
thanks.